Greetings, 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 greetings. This is I, your king, King Clifford Jefferson. I Senator Godfrey, the fifth kind of man Juice on the fourth rule of Jerusalem. I'm the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful, which you refer to as Jesus Christ. I'm back to restore your story, back to the understanding of what you need to make this transition out of here. The last 4 lectures that I did, topic being the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, mysticism, mythical cosmogony, and mystical psychology. Very important for you to watch those 4 lectures that I did, because this one, it's really going to do it justice, okay? It's really going to do it justice. So we're going to revisit some of the material, and that material that was done in the 4 lectures are qualified the lectures that were done previously to those. You know, I like to do things in decency and order. So all those who don't think I know what I'm talking about, that's your business, but, we all look for some type of immortality, we all search for some future immortality that we claim that it was promised to us. Not just here on this plane of existence, but on the plane out of mind, out of sight. All right. So once again, please, it's better for you to not know this than to know this and not follow it. All right. And when I say this, I'm talking to all members of the English Theological Church of England, all officers, all those who want to be members, all those who want to be officers. It's very, 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 very important that you take into consideration what's being said from this vehicle that I'm speaking through. All right, this vessel. It's very important for you to not, how should I say this? A lot of stuff that we see through our eyes, contrast or versus your mind, tells two different stories. All right. It's very important to understand that what we see with our eyes is what we call light. Light is a form of radiation. All right. We know radiation does damage to us as human beings. That our ancestors gave us a mechanism to be able to repel the radiation. All right. Repel the radiation. We know that matter cannot absorb light, nor can it emit light, but it can refract light. Okay, so please understand how important it is for you to not just listen to these lectures, but to fully understand them. If you don't listen to me, then listen to those who I refer to in the lectures. Those who went to the schools of thoughts, because those schools of thoughts were very important to their enlightenment, and what took them years to do took me a couple of days to do, and once again, there is a threshold that everyone must cross. All right, there's a barrier that everyone must get through. All right, that's that vacuum. Hold on for 1 minute. Sorry about that. We all got our different things that we are into, which is your choice. But I always say you're not here to be on this plane to be having fun or enjoying. You're supposed to be learning. All right. You're here to be learning, to learn. All right. You're a spectator here on this plane. And we're going to once again qualify that by what's going to be said today. And this is going to be the last lecture on that topic, the Torah, the 5 books of the Bible, as told by the Midrash, the Talmud, and the Zohar. And it concerns the psychological effects that the mysticism has on you once you interpret the mysticism. All right. A lot of people call that Kabbalah. Okay. We're going to talk about that today because all this serves a purpose in our quest for immortality. All right. It serves in our quest for immortality, i.e., the hereafter. You know, all those of like-minded. All right. So without further ado, let's get started. It is September 27th, 2023. In the birth year 2973, time is 1011. This is a significant time because 1011 or 111 is a very important number that I look to in regards to numerology. And so as I see it, I'm right on time. It's information. All right, so let's get on with it. I'm going to start from 6,000 years. Hey, cut it out. All right. Everyone who's viewing this material needs to be doing more than just looking. All right. Needs to be doing more than just looking. Year 6,000. As you can see, that's the title. It says that the earth was created, heaven and earth was created 6,000 years according to the Hebrew text or according to the Bible, according to the 5 books of the Bible, which we call the Hexator, the Pentateuch, Genesis, whatever name you choose to call it. All right. As you can see, those who follow this religion have some type of, or should have some type of understanding about the Hebrew year 6,000 year mark in regards to the coming age of what we call the Messiah age, all right, or the Masonic age, return of the Messiah, and the year of 6,000 years of the creation, all right. This is told through the Talmud, the Midrash, and the Zohar, all right. We already, through the last 2 videos that I did, discuss the times and the dates, so we're not going to do that today. We're going to discuss the purpose and intent of your studies and the interpretations of your studies to bring into reality the abstract, the concrete, for the purpose of your intent for what we say, search for immortality. All right, life in the hereafter. This is all what we search for. So all those who don't want to entertain this topic, if you good with being here, you could just change the channel. All right, I'm only speaking to those, and those who watch it, it's better for you to not watch this video than to watch this video and not take heed, because you can't say that you did not know. Okay, you cannot say that you did not know. Because according to the classical Jewish sources, the Hebrew year 6,000 year marks the latest times for the initiation of the Masonic age. The Talmud, the Midrash, and Zohar states that the date by which the Messiah will appear is 6,000 years from creation. According to tradition, the Hebrew calendar starts at the time of creation and places at 3761 BC. 3761 BC. We know BC is the Berber calendar. All right. And we know in the Berber year, 1 AD is 3761. All right. Even if we did 1 BC, it would still be the same. 1 AD, 1 BC. Look it up. I'm not going to do that today. And the current year 2023 represents the end of God's creation, which in the Hebrew year would be the year 5784. All right, 5784. We know that 1290, when all the Jews were expelled from England, is in the Berber year 2240. All right, in the Gregorian year. We already broke down the difference between the Gregorian year, the Julian calendar year, and the Berber calendar year. So we're not going to discuss that. We know one day to God is 1,000 years to us, and 1,000 years one day to us is 1,000 years. One day to God is 1,000 years for us. So to God, to Him seems like infinity to us. All right. So we need to understand that. Let's get on with this lesson. We know that the basic teachers of the Midrash and Talmud was for learning and interpreting. All right, for learning and interpreting. And interpreting was based off the Zohar. And the Zohar is symbolic of the Kabbalah. Okay, the Zohar is symbolic of the Kabbalah, which goes in different schools of thought. When I can get into that, we just want to bring clarity to that school of thought, which they made it so hard to understand or understand. I'm gonna show you that it's easy. All right. First, let's deal with the Torah. Since the 6,000 years from creation and to the end of creation and the return of the Messiah age, which this represents, because I am your returning Messiah, we have to go back to the origin of the Torah. Very important. You're going to move fast, y'all. All right. You're going to move fast. Let me just grab something real quick. Here I come now. Sorry about that. Okay, the Torah or the Tanakh. Okay, the Torah or the Tanakh. The Torah of the Tanakh, the Bible Hebrew, Torah, instructions, teachings, or law. Okay, instructions, teachings, or law is the compilation of the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, namely the book of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. It is known as the Pentateuch, or the 5 books of Moses by Christians. It is also known as the written Torah. Written Torah. In Jewish tradition. If meant for liturgic purposes, it's taken to the form. It takes the form of the Torah, goes to Sefer Torah. If in bound book form, it is called the Chumash, and is usually printed with the rabbinic commentaries Persian. At the time, however, the word Torah can also be used as synonymous for the whole of the Hebrew Bible or Tanakh. in which sense it includes not only the first 5 books, but also 24 books of the Hebrew Bible. Okay. You also have what we call in English, it's called the Hexator. It's called the Documents of the Hexator, the oldest book of the Hebrew history, by William Edward Addis. All right. The Hexator. All right. Look that up. Everybody get that book. Also get this book called the Doomsday Book. All right. Both of these books I got at a thrift shop. At a thrift shop. Both books. Majority of my books come from a thrift shop. This book came from a thrift shop. All right. This book came from a thrift shop. All right. So it's very important to understand what you're looking for. All right. Anybody gonna tell me to get these books, but a signal or a wave or a message informed me to get those books. All right. Let me show you one more book. Sorry. Sorry about that. There's another book that I got from the thrift shop. The Kings of England. My wife got it from me. All right. While I was being a student, being taught, she got these books from me. Right. Unbeknowing, I had this book for a minute until one day I was sitting on the side of the bed and I happened to scroll through the book and open to the first page. Not the first page, but the first significant page. This was page 6. Before page 6 is the glossary. All right, table of content, I mean. The table of content. All right. And in it, the table of content, it shows the breakdown of all the dynasties, the Anglo-Saxons, the Danes, the Normans, the Angevins, the Plantagenets, the House of Lancaster, the House of York, the Tudors, the Stuarts, the House of Hanover, the House of Saxon-Coburg, the House of Windsor, select biology, and list of illustrations or indexes. Okay, so it shows you all the line of succession, de jure and de facto, starting from the Anglo-Saxons when they were being invaded by the Danes, i.e., you get into Harold Godwinson, Canute the Great, etc. All right, and they even followed the laws of the kings of Wessex. But if you turn to the page, next page after, it brings you here. All Souls College. All Souls College. King Edgar the Peaceful. King Edgar Jefferson and Oxford University. All right. So, and I didn't realize it till I looked at the picture. I'm like, oh, snap. This person looks just like me. I'm running around trying to qualify it. Everybody's saying, yeah, you're absolutely right. So I'm only catching up to myself, who remembering who I really was in my past life. All right. Or in my former life. All right. So everyone must search for their immortality, and the immortality is their past life. You just took on a new experience, but you have a past life. your original point or point of singularity, point of origin, because that's what you were given, put here to do. The Midrash, the Talmud tells you to study the Zohar, and the Zohar is about the Kabbalah, as we've shown. It said here, where's it at? We're gonna move quick. Torah. The Torah, teaching the law, is the combination of the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, namely the book of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. One second. Deuteronomy. At the time, however, the word Torah can also be used as synonymous for the whole of the Hebrew of the Tanakh. Okay? Hebrew or Tanakh, or what we call the Hexator. Common to all these meanings, the Torah consists of the origin of the Jewish peoplehood. They are called into being by God, their trials and tribulations, their covenant with their God, which involves following a way of life embodied in a set of moral and religious obligations and civil laws. You hear that? Civil laws, not state laws, the laws of the church. Once again, not state laws, but the laws of the church. Church and state is separated. But the church state, prior to it becoming separated, was called a polity, a unitary state, a sovereign state. All right? There was no federal government, there was no confederacy. It's just a unitary state, a sovereign state of God. All right? Governed by the crown, i.e., the church. What church? The Church of England. The English Church of England, I might add. Common to, as I said, the Torah or the Torah Arabic is the Arabic name for the Torah within the context as an Islamic holy book, believed by Muslims to have been given by God to the prophets and messengers amongst the children of Israel, i.e., the Jews. Okay, whatever sect you claim to be a part of. In rabbinic literature, we know the rabbis of the Roman Catholic churches were, prior to that separation from the Roman Catholic Church, and the conflict with the Roman Catholic Church going back to the Christianity influence imposed upon them by Pope Gregory XIII, Pope Gregory I, under the authorship of St. Augustine of Canterbury, all right, to have all the Anglo-Saxon Berbers convert to Christianity. And as a result of that, we're subject to the rabbinic literature that was created, called the Torah, which is noted to the 5 books. The Torah that is written in the oral Torah, Torah that is spoken. The oral Torah consists of an interpretation and application according to the rabbinic tradition, having been handed down from generation to generation and are now embodied in the Talmud and the Midrash. Did you hear that? They're embodied in the Talmud and the Midrash. So every person who claims to be a part of God should be studying the Talmud and the Midrash. All right? You must be studying the Talmud and the Midrash. Why? Because the study of the Talmud and the Midrash, i.e., the study and interpretation, involves the study and interpretation of the Zohar. All right? The Zohar. The Zohar means the Kabbalah. The Zohar means the Kabbalah. Let's move forward. The Kabbalah. Kabbalah, Hebrew, reception, literally reception tradition. It's an esoteric method, discipline, and school of thought in Jewish mysticism. All right. Traditional Kabbalists is called Mekabal or receiver. All right. So when you receive this mysticism or understanding, you get it from some transmitter. All right. Who is the transmitter? That's the key. The definition of Kabbalah varies according to the tradition and aims of those following it. From its origin in medieval Judaism, you hear that? Medieval Judaism to its later adaptation in Western esotericism, Christian Kabbalah or Hermetic Kabbalah. You hear that? It originated from medieval Judaism. Jewish Kabbalah is a set of esoteric teaching means to explain the relationship between the unchanging internal God, the mysterious Ein Sof, the infinite, and the mortal infinite universe, i.e., God's creation, in the form and foundation of mystical religious interpretation within medieval Judaism. Did y'all hear that? Within medieval Judaism. Traditional practice believed its earliest origin predate world religions, forming the primordial blueprint for creation, philosophy, religion, science, art, and political systems. Historically, Kabbalah emerged from the early form of Jewish mysticism in the 12th to the 13th century Spain and southern France, and was reinterpreted during the Jewish mystical Renaissance and the 16th century under Ottoman Palestine. The Zohar, the foundational text of the Kabbalah, was composed in the late 13th century. Did we hear that? Let's move further. Everybody better be paying attention. Modern academical history study of the Jewish mysticism reserves the term Kabbalah to designate the particular distinctive doctrine that textually emerges fully expressed in the Middle Ages, as distinct from the earlier Merkaba mystical conceptions and methods, i.e., Ezekiel's will. Let's look at it. You see here. Merkaba is a school of early Jewish mysticism from 100 BC to 1000 Christian era. All right, centered on the visions such as those found in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, concerning the story in a sense to the heavenly places and the throne of God. You see that? It's right there. Let's go back. You should be having this article pulled up for yourself. Okay, let's go back to the Kabbalah. So, as we said, the Torah, 5 books, Pentateuch, Hexatorah, whatever you want to call it, right? It's the Hebrew Bible, all right? And it deals with the instructions given to the children of Israel concerning the information that they're supposed to be understanding by way of their studying and interpreting concerning the Talmud and the Midrash within the 6,000-year time period in lieu of the return of the Messiah. So you're supposed to know this. You're supposed to know this information when the Messiah returned, or when the Messiah incarnated, or when the Messiah personified, or when the Messiah incorporated. All right, you were supposed to know this information by way of custom traditions being passed down. All right, so you had to belong to this particular society. This particular society, in particular, was the church. All right, the church monasteries. But apparently, nobody knows this. There's a problem with that. I'm gonna show you why. So, give me a second. Kabbalah, where's that? Right. We're back on Kabbalah. All those who are part of these groups, this information is not hard. Origin of the Kabbalah. All right, very simple. According to traditional Kabbalistic understanding, Kabbalah dates from Eden, as they say. It came down from a remote past as a revelation. So that means you're supposed to remember it. All right? You're supposed to remember this. A remote past as a revelation to elect, i.e., the righteous people, and for the most part was preserved only by a privileged few. Y'all better hear what I'm talking about. There ain't no time to be picky or choosy or proud. None of that. Boastful. It ain't about that. You must be amongst the privileged few, the righteous people. Righteous is not what you call assuming to live righteous. Righteous is following God's law. All right. The Midrash and the Talmud tells you to follow God's law. Follow God's law, interpret God's law in lieu of the mysticism. Mysticism, the abstract metaphor, whatever it is, brain concrete to what it is that you so-called saying you practice. If you don't, you're going to be in a world of trouble because all that which you need to make concrete refers to the Kabbalah or what we call the Zohar. All right. One should not teach. It says here, the Talmudic Judaism records its view of proper protocol for teaching secrets in the Talmud. Tractate Haggadah 11b to 13a. One should not teach the work of creation in pairs, nor the work of chariots to an individual, unless he is wise, can understand the implications himself, etc. You hear that? So much is given, for much is required, much, how do you say? For much is given, much is required. All right? For much is given, much is required. That work of chariot is concerns what? The Maseh Bereshit and Maseh Merkava. Let's discuss that real quick. So we're going into the Solomon Temple, the Ark of the Covenant, etc. All this is symbolic. All right? All this is symbolic. That's what the word was. Okay. So the origins of what it is that you're supposed to be understanding should not be taught if you don't understand what it is that you claim you understand. All right? You can't teach it if you don't understand it. And you can't understand it if it's not taught properly. All right? And if it's not taught properly, if it's not concrete. Abstract is left up to interpretation. It's soon to be true under what we call the laws of presumption. All right? So God's work of creation and the work of the chariot is denoted to what we call God's cosmogony, which is required for every member, all right, of that privileged few, those who claim to call themselves righteous, all right, concerning the work of creation and the work of the chariot. That's your ticket for going home, all right? Your memory of this is your ability to be able to make the transition or the transition through the transmission of the information that you receive and based off the interpretation of the transmission of the information that received from that work of that chariot. Okay, in regards to the work of creation that you helped create. What is the work of chariot? Maseh Bereshit and Maseh Merkava, literally work of creation and work of chariot, are the terms used in the Talmud for the esoteric doctrine of the universe or the part of it. You hear that? following Genesis first comprises the cosmogony of the Talmudic times, based on description of divine chariot in Ezekiel 1, and on other prophetic descriptions of divine manifestations, such as Isaiah 6, and concerns with the theosophic views of those times. So all this concerns creation as well as the return of the one who created, coming back for his creation, i.e., the righteous, i.e., the privileged few, to be caught up in the cloud. All right, that cloud, that molecular cloud, that through that interstellar medium, through the transmission medium, through that light that travels through by way of that uh, uh, that channeling for light to travel. That's 6 symbols and ways for you to understand, whether it's done by what we call what you see through visible light, and what you see through the visible light is a result of those that you're subject to. All right, they create what you see. Everything that you see is not based off the original creation, because they build everything that you look at. When you open your eyes, all you see is stuff coming out of stores or something built by somebody. All right. We don't even look at the earth anymore. We don't even look at the the shores and the seas and the mountains and the things that were created for us to bear witness to of the supremacy of our creators. All right, which was created for habitat for us to enjoy. So that was the purpose of your understanding in regards to the Talmud instructions in lieu of the Midrash, which is the Torah, the Hexatorah, the Pentateuch, whatever you want to call it. It must be concerning the Kabbalah. And we know the Kabbalah is concerning the Zohar, concerning the creation of God and the creation of His creation, i.e., the universe. And we know that goes back to the laws of what we call cosmogony. And cosmogony deals with the laws of what we call the Big Bang, do what we call a singularity. Singularity deals with what we call gravitational singularity, space-time singularity, or just singularity. I discussed that in my last video. We'll talk about it again today. So let's move forward. All right. So all this that we're talking about in lieu of cosmogony, which is not our future understanding, but our past understanding, which we're supposed to memorialize through memory. All right, through memory. So memory is a mental faculty, not a visual faculty, because you can have a mental visualization as well. All right, a mental visualization. That's what we need to be spending our time with, exploring our mental faculties. All right, let's show why. As you can see, the name Jews came from England with William the Conqueror. We showed you that, all right? We showed you that they were expelled in 1290, which is the year 2240. We showed you that in my last video. So if you didn't, please watch that. I just wanted to show you that so that you know. And you see here, the whale. You see that whale right there, right? Everyone sees it. Everyone sees that whale. Let's go here. You see a whale with a griffin. Okay. You see the surname Jew with a griffin. A griffin is a sort of cherub. Let me prove it. I can do better with this one. Let's go back here to where is it? Where was it at? Merkaba. Merkaba mysticism, or the Kabbalah mysticism. But you see, is that whale with the wings. Everyone see it. Right here. Let's go back to the surname, Jew. There you see the whale, the wings on it. Let's have to blow that up. No, I can't. I'm not even gonna mess my screen up. Let me just go back. So let me just move forward, okay? We know in Christianity, the symbolism that's in it, for our understanding, denotes to the throne, all right? The majesty throne. So this is how we interpret it in a concrete manner, right here. Christianity mysticism concerning the Kabbalah, all right, or the Zohar. This is what we deal with, all right? As you can look, you see stars behind this image of Christ. You see the four beasts, all right, with the book of life. This goes back to New Minister Liber Vitae, what's it called? Liber Vitae. On the New Minister chart is going back to King Edgar the Peaceful. All right. So you see there, we made reference to that in other lectures, but for the sake of time, I'm going to move forward. So once again, we all seek towards this immortality. This immortality, this future life that was promised to us. All right. Very, 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 very important. Because you can't get it based off what we see. All right. Because we look for it, it ain't here yet. So when we look for it, it ain't here yet. So the only thing we can have is a mental perception of what perhaps this future immortality is going to be. All right. And it's not based on what we see, it must be based on what's been taught to us. All right. So the records already must be here if there's a promise of a hereafter. All right. If there's a promise of what we call a hereafter. All right. So it's very important because in the 6,000 years, we must know about the hereafter in order to go to the hereafter, which was preserved for a few, a reserved few, which were righteous, and righteous being true to the law that was given to you. And the law was that what you were supposed to study. All right. Interpreted what you're supposed to study. We see a lot of rabbis, priests, apostles, whatever you want to call them, claiming to study the Talmud and the Midrash, but none of them speak about, or if they do know, they're not speaking about it. Concerning the Kabbalah or the Zohar, concerning the afterlife, the transition to the afterlife. Who is able to explain that and make it concrete? That's what I'm trying to do to y'all. All right, you can listen if you want to, but that's on you. But first, you must start with the understanding, and understanding comes to a realization. A realization of an immortality comes to you understanding what immortality is. Okay, so let's define immortality. Okay. Immortality is the concept of an indefinite eternal existence even after death. Everybody ponder that thought for a second. Even after death. All right. Once again, immortality is the concept of an indefinite internal existence even after death. So we think beyond the body, all right, immortality, beyond the body, beyond the physical. So if you want to go beyond the physical, you must understand physics, right? You must understand physics. Physics deals with just cellular structure because you are a physical being made up of what we call cells, all right? And just like you got a lineage, your cells have a lineage too, but that lineage has been broken, right? As a result of damage. And that damage needs to be repaired in regards to your lineage of who you descended down from. This is called biological immortality. Biological immortality can be accomplished through what we call mental immortality. Why? Because some scientists, futurists, and philosophers have theorized about the immortality of a human body. So they talk about us. With some suggested that human immortality may be achieved in the first few decades of the 21st century. We're in the 21st century, with the help of certain technologies such as mind uploading or digital immortality. You hear that? Mind uploading or digital immortality. That's not meaning hooked up to some computer. That's not what it's talking about. Once again, some scientists who study physics have theorized that immortality can be accomplished through mind uploading, which they're assuming can, as they call it, digital immortality, because your mind is a computer. And the only way your computer can store stuff is by uploading, all right? By uploading, all right? By uploading is done mentally, not based off what you see with your physical eyes, which is light, because if anything, that's a form of damaging. It damages you as a form of radiation. You stare in the sun too long, you can be blinded, i.e., ignorant, unconscious, blinded, not knowing. How you gonna see if light shining in your eye of what you're trying to see? All you see is a fog, right? So it says that mind uploading is a form of what we call digital immortality in regards to what we call a life extension from mortal to immortal. All right, from mortal to immortal through mind transfer. That takes us back to what we call autobiological memory, engrams, daydreaming. All right, daydreaming. Daydreaming is a form of mind uploading. But when you mind uploading based off daydreaming, it must not be based off what you see with your physical eyes, which is also recorded in that computer, in that mind. That's what you run off all day, what you see with your physical eyes, and that's a form of radiation. It's killing you. Y'all don't hear me. Y'all don't hear me. You must obtain biological immortality through what they call mind uploading, remembering who you were. Remembering who you were. Let's talk about it. I hope I remember everything I wanted to talk about. Cell lineage denotes the development history of a tissue or organ from the fertilized embryo, i.e., a zygote. All right. This is based on the tracking of an organism's cellular ancestry due to the cell's division and relocation as time progresses. This starts with the originator cell. You hear that? And finishes with a mature cell that can no longer divide. This is called cell repairing, repairing DNA. Repairing your DNA. This is what you do by remembering your cellular lineage. All right? You must understand that. In order for you to do that, you must have this, what we call out-of-body experience. You can't see the cells, right? It's inanimate. An out-of-body experience is a phenomenon, i.e. mysticism, which a person perceives the world from a location outside of their physical body. All right? Outside of your physical body. You know, the physical body is made of matter. You know what I'm saying? That has a density, which we call mass. All right. Density and mass is not the same. All right. Density based on how fat or how skinny you are. Matter is based off the material that you're composed of. You know, matter cannot be destroyed, nor can energy be destroyed. All right. That's why you have antimatter. Antimatter is matter that occupies space absent of what we call density. All right. That means that it must be subject to the gravitational singularity, which created the universe. All right. Or space-time singularity. We talked about it in the last video. We're going to talk about it now. But first things first. We must understand this not from what we see, because we know what we be seeing with the physical eye is nothing but lies. So in order for you to understand that, you must have this out-of-body experience. You can't do it while you're sleeping. You have to do it while you so-called saying you're awoke, because you have control of what comes in your mind and what comes out of your mind. You know when you're sleeping, your thoughts are not in the control of you or of you, right? They're random. They're free to act as their own. You might wind up and flying, and 1 minute you might wind up being chased, going to one room, wind up in another room, all right? So it's subject to change, not at your will, but at your conscious mind's will. But your conscious mind is free to roam based off everything that you uploaded to what you call light. All right? Because all of your dreams are based off what you do in your present life. That's all they know. All right? So you must have this out-of-body experience through what they call autoscopy, literally what we call seeing your true self. Your true self is not what you see with your physical eyes. All right? That's a lie. All right? You must use what they call autoscopy. Autoscopy is the experience in which an individual perceives the surrounding environment from a different perspective, from a position outside of their own body, i.e., matter. All right? Close your eyes. Your mind is not attached to your body. So you're perceiving yourself through visualization, through mind uploading. All right? But what you mind uploading shouldn't be based on what you previously perceived through what you view with your eyes, because that's light. And we know light is a medium that signals travel through for you to interpret based off your study. And we know light originated from a source. And what is the source? The source of light is through the transmission medium that originated from the interstellar medium, which is nothing more than space absent of matter. All right, space absent of matter. All right, so for you to understand that, you must understand immortality. And we know immortality is digital uploading or mind uploading or mind transfer to what they call the out-of-body experience, thinking about stuff. All right, autoscopy has been an interest to humankind from time immemorial, i.e., time immemorial goes back to immortality. Immortality goes back to a time where you were not. All right, a time where you were not a time where you yet to be. Right, because where you gonna go if you don't know what you're looking for? All right, you know you want to be with your ancestors, right? That's what you want to be for. That takes memory uploading, remembering, not just your present, what you view with your physical eye, but what you don't see with your spiritual eye. And your spiritual eye is the consciousness of your cellular lineage. All right, the consciousness of your cellular lineage, which repairs your DNA. All right, let's talk about that. Cell. Cell lineage. In humans, after fertilization, the zygote divides into two cells. All right, unlinked now, i.e., mathematics. That deals with understanding mathematics. You got a unknot, unknot, and unlinked. And you have and when they link, it becomes what they call a trefoil. All right, we already talked about that. Go to people's lessons for that. This is the human after fertilization, the zygote divides into two cells. Somatic mutation that arises directly after the formation of the zygote, as well as later in development, can be used as markers to trace the cell lineages throughout the body. Beginning with the cleavages of the zygote, lineages were observed to contribute unequally to blood cells. As much as 90% of the blood cells were found to be derived from just one of the first two blastomeres. In addition, normal development may result in unequal characteristics of symmetrical organs, such as between the left and right frontal and occipital cerebral cortex. It was proposed that the efficiency of DNA repair contribute to lineage imbalances, as additional time spent by a cell or DNA repair may decrease proliferation of life. This goes back to what we call biological immortality. Biological immortality is a result of what we call mental transfer, or mental uploading, or biological uploading by what we call cellular memory of your cellular lineage. That's what we call cellular repair or DNA repair. So by remembering, you're repairing your DNA. Y'all better understand. Don't believe me? Let's read it for ourselves. Immortality. Immortality is a concept of independent internal existence even after death. Some species possess biological immortality. Once again, biological immortality. What is biological immortality? Let's discuss that. Biological immortality, sometimes referred as to bio-indefinite mortality, is a state in which the rate of mortality from senescing is stable or decreasing, thus decoupling it from chronological age. Various unicellular and multicellular species, including some vertebrates, achieve the state either throughout their existence or after living long enough. A biologically immortal living being can still die from means other than senescing, such as through injury, poison, disease, predation, lack of available resources, or changes to environment. This definition of immortality has been challenged in the handbook of biology of aging because the increase in the rate of mortality as a function of chronological age may be negligible at extremely old age, an idea referred to as a late life mortality plateau. Let's read on. Cell lineage. Remember, cell lineage, cell lines. All right. Biologists choose the word immortal. We know immortality deals with mental uploading through digital uploading. It says biologists choose the word immortal. We know immortality goes back to time immortal, time out of mind. All right. And time out of mind doesn't have to improvement when the usage of that common law does them on contrary to the mind. So if you practice it, then that means that it's no longer considered what they consider uh, when common law ends, then the written law. You don't need written law because the written law is just a recording of the common law, which was in usage. They assumed that this usage of the common law was not in usage, so they started recording it, i.e., a record. So you must rebuild the record to go back to the usage of the common law, i.e., cellular lineage, i.e., cellular upgrade or cellular transfer to what they call cellular line, i.e., you pick up the phone line, telecommunication. All right? It says biologists choose the word immortal to designate cells that are not subject to the Hayflick's limit, the point in which cells can no longer divide due to DNA damage. Did you hear that? Cells can no longer divide due to DNA damage or shortened telomeres. Prior to Leonard Hayflick theory, Alice Carroll hypothesized that all normal somatic cells were immortal. You hear that? All normal somatic cells were immortal. So it says that when cells can no longer divide, when cells can no longer divide, you must go into, as they said, cell lineage. Cell lineage denotes the development of history, of a tissue or organ from the fertilized embryo. This is based on tracking of the organism's cellular ancestry due to the cell division and relocation as time progresses. This starts with the originator cell and finishes with a mature cell that can no longer divide. Okay? That can no longer divide. So that means it can no longer divide because the cell has been repaired. The cell has been repaired. So let's go into what we call DNA repair. Y'all don't hear me. How I know this? All right. How do I know this? DNA repair. One second. Make sure you see this. DNA repair is the collection of processes by which a cell identifies and corrects damages to the DNA molecule that encodes its genome. In human cells, both normal metabolic activities and environmental factors such as radiation can cause DNA damage, resulting in tens of thousands of individual molecular lesions per cell per day. So if you receive your life through what you see, which is light, and we know light is radiation, you're destroying yourself. Because we know light itself that you see is based off what they perceive you see, which is based off, as we say, radiation. And radiation destroys matter. You know what I'm saying? We know matter itself is subject to change. Matter cannot be destroyed, no energy can be destroyed. And we know energy is radiation. So that's what hence the word dark matter, i.e., dark energy, i.e., luminous spheres energy. We're discussing in a second. It says DNA molecules that encode in genomes and human cells, both normal metabolic activity and environmental factors such as radiation can cause DNA damage, resulting in tens of thousands of individual molecular lesions per cell per day. All right? Let's see. So what is DNA damage? All right? We know DNA damage is what we call DNA repair. Let's just qualify it. What was it at? Cell lineage. No, it wasn't cell lineage. It was called biological immortality. Right here. Biology chose the word immortal to designate cells that are not, because remember, immortality can be accomplished by certain species through biological immortality. Let's review it just to be clear. All right? We're a biological entity as well, whether we know it or not. All right? Immortality is the concept of indefinite eternal existence even after death, i.e., immortality. Some species possess biological immortality. All right. The only way that can be done is through mind uploading, through digital immortality, for digital immortality. What forms unending human life would take, or whether an immaterial soul exists and possesses immortality, has been a major point of focus of religion, as well as the subject of speculation and debate. In religious context, immortality is often stated to be one of the promises of divinity to human beings who perform virtues of or follow divine law. Y'all don't hear me? Y'all do not hear me. Y'all better listen to what I'm talking about, y'all. There go that number. It's 10, 11:10. All right, it's 11:10. Life extension technologies claim to be developing a path to complete rejuvenation. Cryonics hold out a hope that the dead can be revived in the future following the sufficient medical advancement. While as shown with creatures such as Hydra and planarian worms, it is indeed impossible for a creature to be biological immortal. These are animals which are psychologically very different from humans, and it's not known and something comparable will ever be possible for humans. All right? Ever be possible for humans. All right, so the only way this can be done is through mental uploading, and we know mental uploading is through reversing or adverse to what we perceive things to be by understanding ourselves. All right, because we know the midrash and the Talmud means to study and interpret and study yourself. Because if you were created by God and in the image of God, He created things, then you must understand God and God's creation because you are part of His creation. And the only way to study that is to study, as they said, the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah goes back to the knowledge of God and God's creation, known as they also said the Zohar, or what they call the Merkaba mysticism, deals with, as we said, um, uh, uh, the throne. And we know the throne is a symbolic of what we call Ezekiel well. All right. What is radiation? There we go. In physics, radiation is the emission and transmission of energy in the forms of waves or particles through space or through a material medium, i.e., space-time, what we call space-time or gravitational singularity, which is the knowledge or the science of cosmogony. All right. Once again, gravitational singularity, space-time singularity, are just simply singularity. All right. Physics radiation is the emission of energy in the form of waves. All right. Signals. For waves and signals or particles to travel through space, it needs a medium. All right. So now what was thought to be foolish comes out to be concrete now that I'm breaking it down, such as electromagnetic radiation, radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, particle radiation, alpha radiation, beta radiation, neuron radiation, acoustic radiation, i.e., acoustic, what is that? What was it? What was that term? Baryonic acoustic oscillation, because we know all matter is subject to varying acoustic oscillation. All right, such as ultrasounds and seismic waves, depending on the physical transmission medium. Gravitational radiation that takes the form of gravitational waves or ripples in the curvature of space and time. All right, of space and time. That's called gravitational singularity. Where is it at? Gravitational singularity, space-time singularity, or simply singularity is a condition in which gravity is predicted to be so intense that space-time itself will break down catastrophically. All right, space-time will break down catastrophically. This is what they call the Big Bang. Big Bang. Events is a physical theory that describes how the universe expanded. This comes from singularity, gravitational singularity, space-time singularity, or just singularity. We're going to prove it. Big Bang events, physical theory that describes how the universe expanded from one initial state of high density. We know density denotes the mass and temperature. Various cosmological models of the Big Bang explain the evolution of the observable universe for the earliest known period to a subsequent large-scale form. These models often comprehensive explanations for a broad range of observable phenomena, which we're observing that phenomenon now through what we see light, but now observing from a mental transmission medium that comes through interstellar medium, and which signals and waves travel through as well. All right, because from the lightest to the shortest being radio wave, and the highest being gamma rays. All right, or whatever waves that proceed before or after that. The overall uniformity of the universe, known as flatness problem, is explained through cosmic inflation, a sudden and very rapid expansion of space during the earliest moments. However, physics currently lacks a widely accepted theory of quantum gravity that can simply model the earliest conditions of the Big Bang. All right, this is what we're supposed to be understanding. All right, crucially, this model are compatible with the Hubble limit law, that observation that the farthest away the galaxy is, the faster it is moving away from the Earth. You hear that? The farther away the galaxy is, the faster it is moving away from Earth. Extrapolating this cosmic expansion backwards in time using the known laws of physics, the model describes an increasingly concentrated cosmos proceeding by a singularity in which space and time lose its meaning, typically named the Big Bang singularity. That's called cosmogony. This is all Kabbalistic teachings. All right. Cosmogony is the model concerning the origin and cosmos of the universe. Astronomy cosmogony refers to the study, i.e., the Midrash and Talmud study to study astronomy. All right, we know astronomy deals with interstellar, and we know interstellar deals with the space between stars. We know stars result from the collapse of gravitational collapse of what we call our planetary nebula. And we know a planetary nebula is just a cloud of what we call electromagnetic energy. All right, electromagnetic energy. And astronomy cosmogony refers to the study of the origin of particular astrophysical object or system, and the most commonly used in reference to the origin of the universe, the solar system, or the Earth-Moon system. The prevalent cosmological model of the earliest development of the universe is the Big Bang theory, i.e., gravitational singularity, space-time singularity, or what we call singularity, which is nothing more than what we call space-time, right? Space-time. What is space-time? Y'all better listen. Space-time results in what we call a gravitational collapse. General relativity theory. And the only way that can happen through special theory of relativity, through 0-point energy. In physics, space-time is a mathematical model that fuses the three dimensions of space and the one dimension of time into a singular four-dimensional continuum, space-time diagram, now useful in visualizing and understanding, i.e., visualizing and understanding through what we call autobiological memory, or what they call autoscopy, all right, or what we call out-of-body experience through engrams, through mental transfer. This is the only way to receive immortality, through a biological immortality, which we call cellular lineage, which calls the repairing of your DNA, right? Because right now, you're a result of radiation, right? You're a result of radiation. You're a living radiation right now, right? You're a living radiation. You're a living radiation, but radiation can't get burned by radiation. Radiation can only burn others. So the only person got to be burned by radiation is those who don't have the protection that protects you from radiation, which is what we call melanin or melanocytes. Because melanocytes and sunburn is a result of radiation. And we know radiation causes sunburn. All right? It's very simple, y'all. Very simple. So we know that space-time is moved from fourth dimensional, and for that to happen, the gravitational, we know that a star itself is a result from a nebula, and we know a nebula uh, 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 denotes from a gravitational collapse. So what's a nebula? Just to make sure we review it. A nebula, 1 second, sorry. A nebula is a distinct luminescent part of interstellar medium. We know interstellar medium is interstellar means space between stars, and the space between stars and that medium in which light travels, because we know light, we know stars come from nebulas. We know nebulas when their gravitational collapses create stars, but then create their own gravitational pull. All right, so it's a nebula, cloud, or fog, or nebulae is a distinct luminescent part of an interstellar medium, which we'll go to in a second in a little closing. You know, a star it says the star life begins with the gravitational. Oh man, come on. You know, say a star life begins with the gravitational collapse. So in the gravitational collapse, then there's no gravitational singularity. All right. That means that it's up to what we call a vacuum. All right. A vacuum is space-time. They call it a wormhole. All right. A wormhole. Space-time wormhole. Time and space are closing in on itself. A collapse. A star life begins with the gravitational collapse of a gaseous nebula of material largely comprising of hydrogen and helium traces heavier than elements. So a star life begins after the nebula collapses. What is a gravitational collapse? Through gravitational, through what they call quantum fluctuation. Gravitational collapse is the contraction of astronomical objects due to the influence of its own gravity, which tends to draw matter inward towards the center of gravity. You hear that? That's a vacuum. You hear that? That's a vacuum. Gravity collapses is the fundamental mechanism for structure formation in the universe. Over time, an initial relatively smooth distribution of matter will collapse to form pockets of higher density, typically creating a hierarchy of condensed structures such as a cluster of galaxies, stellar groups, stars, and planets. All right. A star is born through the gradual gravitational collapse of a cloud, i.e., a nebula, of interstellar matter, i.e., antimatter, i.e., ether. How we know, in closing, interstellar matter. Interstellar matter, let's just review that before we go into interstellar medium. I love teaching this. Astronomy, the interstellar medium, once again, interstellar medium. Did y'all hear that? Interstellar matter is interstellar medium. All right. And we know a medium is a vacuum for signals and waves to travel through. Let's go to the history concerning interstellar medium. In closing. Hope I didn't miss it. Here we go. History of interstellar space. We know interstellar space is the space between stars, and we know stars get their start from nebula's gravitational pull collapsing, which causes a vacuum, i.e., space-time, a shift from one dimension to the next dimension. So it says the word interstellar between the stars was coined by Francis Bacon in context of the ancient theory of spheres of fixed stars. Later in the 17th century, with the idea that stars were scattered through the infinite space became popular, it was debated whether that space was a true vacuum. We know a vacuum is absent of matter, all right? Absent of matter, or filled with a hypothetical fluid, sometimes called ether. ether. And Rene Descartes' vortex theory of planetary motion, while vortex theory did not survive the success of Newton's physics, and invisible luminous spheres ether was reintroduced in the early 19th century. All right, luminous spheres ether. We'll close on luminous spheres ether. Luminous spheres ether, meaning light bearing, was the postulated medium, transmission medium, for you to be able to mental transfer by digital uploading your memories to restore your DNA by way we call biological, do what they call biological immortality. Because you're one of the species who can accomplish this feat. All right. Luminiferous meaning light bearing was the postulated meaning for the propagation of light. It was invoked by explaining the ability of apparently wave-based light to propagate through empty space, i.e., a vacuum. Something that waves should not be able to do. Why? Because they can't do it. All right. So 0.0 energy theory. All right, let's go back here. One second. Ether theories. Mind is a terrible thing to waste, y'all. Luminous spheres ether. All right. This is in closing. Ether, classical elements, or luminous spheres ether. Whatever point of understanding you're trying to grasp it from, you can use all three, from the element, luminous spheres ether, or from just the ether theory. It says in physics, ether theories, also known as ether theories, propose the existence of a medium, a space-filling substance, or a field as a transmission medium for the propagation of electromagnetic or gravitational forces. Since the development of special relativity, whether it's general or special relativity theories using a substantial ether, fell out of use in modern physics and are now replaced by more abstract models. You hear? So they don't want to give you the concrete understanding. They wanted to remain abstract. They wanted to remain abstract. Okay, as we can see it. The physical ether theories, also known as ether theories, propose the existence of a medium of space filling receptors or field as a transmission medium for the propagation of electromagnetic or gravitational forces. All right. You know, the gravitational force is about to collapse as a result of the nebula, and which gives birth to stars. And this is going to occur all over again. So if you don't want to be subject to the calamities that's going to result, and lieu of you not be able to hear your calling, the medium. It says the transmission medium is a system of substance that can mediate the propagation of signals for the purpose of telecommunication. Telecommunications. So your ancestors are using me as a beacon or a satellite to communicate to you. All right, to communicate to you about the transition or transmission that you're receiving, and that the transmission that you're receiving is very important for you to pick up for the relation, for the revealing or the relaying of the information in regards to being able to receive immortality. And we know immortality is do what we call biological immortality, do what we call understanding your cellular lineage. We know cellular lineage is based off you picking up when that call comes due, based off that cell line. And if you pick up that call that's being created through that, what they call a transmission medium, you'd be able to restore yourself through your DNA repair that's been obscured by what we call that radiation. You know, radiation is the result of light. So stop interpreting things from what you see with your eyes and start interpreting things and what you see with your mind. And with that, your king, Clifford Jefferson Godfrey, fifth kind of man Jew, son of folk, love the roots of the incarnation, king of the peaceful, says peace.